Frustration is a really common emotion. Think about how often you hear people say, "I'm so frustrated," or "this is so frustrating," and even how often it maybe comes out of your own mouth. People get frustrated with their job, their horse, their boss, their employees, their spouse, their kids, their career, their personal life, the government. And frustration is a seriously debilitating emotion, so we need to take a closer look at how to stop it. First of all, what is frustration? Frustration is an emotional response typically triggered by the inability to achieve a desired goal or outcome. It arises when you encounter obstacles, setbacks, or challenges that hinder your progress or prevent you from satisfying your needs and desires. And it often occurs where there's a perceived discrepancy between expectation and reality. Even worse, frustration can manifest as feelings of anger, disappointment, irritation, or even helplessness. I'd love to tell you a personal story about frustration, but I can't think of one, at least not since I discovered the antidote in my mid-20s, and more on that later. So why do people get frustrated? There can be a variety of reasons, and the triggers can be both internal and external. Here are some common reasons. People get frustrated by obstacles or setbacks. When you encounter challenges or obstacles that impede your progress toward a goal, they can make you really frustrated. And this could include facing unexpected difficulties, like in completing a task, hitting roadblocks along the way, or experiencing delays in reaching an important milestone. And then there's unmet expectations. Frustration often arises when there's a disconnect between what you expect or desire and what actually occurs. When reality falls short of expectations, you feel disappointed, disillusioned, or even annoyed. Next, lack of control. Feeling powerless or unable to influence a situation can lead to frustration. When you have little or no control over your circumstances, frustration quickly turns into feelings of helplessness or even powerlessness, which is really tough. There were times I felt totally powerless during my divorce and the lawsuits concerning my business future, but that went beyond frustrating. It was scary. Next, uncertainty. Dealing with uncertainty or ambiguity can be frustrating, especially when you're uncertain about how to proceed or what the future holds. You need clarity and you need direction. And then there's perceived unfairness. Frustration surfaces when you perceive things as not fair or unjust. And this could involve situations where you don't receive recognition, rewards, or the opportunities you think you deserve. And also can go beyond frustration to resentment. Communication breakdowns, misunderstandings, miscommunications, or conflicts in relationships often lead to frustration. When you feel misunderstood, ignored, or unable to express yourself effectively, it often results in frustration and ongoing tension. Also, there are different levels of frustration because it can manifest as mild irritation all the way to intense anger or distress. And it varies depending on the individual, the situation, and the specific triggers involved. Let's have a look at 3 distinct levels of frustration. First of all, there's mild frustration. At this level, you tend to experience mild annoyance or irritation, usually in response to minor obstacles or setbacks. This could include feeling slightly impatient while waiting in line, or experiencing a brief moment of frustration when encountering a small inconvenience. Next is moderate frustration. This typically involves a stronger emotional response, such as increased annoyance, impatience, or agitation. You might feel more visibly upset or stressed when facing challenges or obstacles that are more significant or persistent. And then the next level is severe frustration. At this level, frustration becomes more intense and can lead to feelings of anger, resentment, or even helplessness. Heightened emotional distress affects your ability to cope with the situation, and as such, severe frustration can be debilitating and interfere with your ability to think clearly or make rational decisions. And now I'm going to add one more, and that's chronic frustration. This occurs when you experience prolonged or recurring feelings of frustration over an extended period of time, which could be due to ongoing challenges, persistent obstacles, or unmet needs or goals. Now here's the worst part. Chronic frustration is bound to have long-term negative effects on your mental and emotional well-being. It leads to stress, dissatisfaction or despair, and even health issues. So now that you're well and truly aware of some of the negative consequences of frustration, let's look at some of the ways to deal with or overcome it. Overcoming frustration is critical to your mental and emotional well-being. And here are some strategies that you can consider. The first one seems easy, and it can be, because it is to just stop it. Yes, stop it. When you know how futile, let alone how damaging feeling frustrated is, and you discover that you have the power to stop it, the sooner you'll do it. Here's why. Because frustration never improves or resolves the situation. Many years ago, I saw a poster in the horse riding arena at a very important equestrian school in Bern, Switzerland. It said, "When knowledge ends, violence begins." This applied to horsemanship in that setting, of course, but it can apply to almost any area of your life. What if, instead of violence, we use the word frustration? When knowledge ends, frustration begins. Now your solution is clear. You just need more knowledge. Think of it. If you knew how long it would take and what it would take, you would not be frustrated, because it is what it is, especially when there are circumstances beyond your control. And then, if you are still frustrated, it's probably more about your impatience with the process. Either way, feeling frustrated doesn't make things better, and it usually makes things worse. For example, I used to be terrified of flying. And then I flew so much for work, I finally gave up the behavior. I decided to save my terror for when something actually might happen. I think the same thing goes for frustration. Most of the time, it is just wasted energy and emotion, and that will take its toll on your energy, your attitude, and not to mention your health. Here's another strategy. Take a break. If you find yourself frustrated, step away from the situation for a few moments to clear your mind and regain some perspective. I learned a very valuable tactic many years ago, and that was to take 5 deep breaths. This is well proven to relax your mind and emotions. And make sure you count them. 5, not 3, not 4, because after 3, you already start to feel better, and you need to do all 5. Next, try to identify the source. Pinpoint the specific cause of your frustration, because understanding what it is that's triggering your frustration can help you address the issues more effectively and develop strategies to overcome it. Is it a person, a situation, a process? Is it in or out of your control? And if it's in your control, fix it. If it's not, then let it go. Next, set realistic expectations. Sometimes your expectations do not meet reality. You're like a bubble off concerning the time frame, or didn't think all of the things that could get in the way and might feel broadsided. I'd say this is my number one issue. I'm always a lot more optimistic about what I can achieve in a certain time frame. In this case, you need to be able to quickly adjust your expectations so they align with reality. And now, here's a big one. Focus on solutions. Instead of dwelling on the problem, focus on finding solutions. Brainstorm potential ways to overcome obstacles or address challenges so you can get back on track. You might do this best with the help of others, but you may also have to brainstorm with yourself. For me, writing down every possible solution helps me to focus and then find the best one. The best part is that you see lots of solutions. And now, here's the one that will lead us into episode number 2 on dealing with frustration. Practice patience. Most of us are probably not as good at this as we'd like to believe, but learning how to cultivate patience and resilience in the face of adversity is a superpower. Try to remind yourself that challenges are temporary and work on the strength and resilience to overcome them. That part does not often come naturally, and you might have to train to do that. In part 2 of this episode on dealing with frustration, we're going to talk about developing patience and also the toll that frustration takes on your health and happiness.